is Russell Lee, Sultai Urza versus humans. I don't know. If I was on the Urza side, I'm not sure if I want to be a list like Daryl's, which is black base, a lot of cheap removal, fatal push, or if I want to be something like Corey Baumeister's, which we saw the red spot removal spells in Galvanic Blast and also Anger of the Gods in the sideboard.
Yeah, it's interesting. The removal spells are pretty similar. It's more, to me, some of the other sideboard cards you get. The red is largely for Blood Moon, which looks very important in a field with a lot of Titan running around.
Yeah, Blood Moon, a big pickup this weekend. Russell, unfortunately, seemingly hit with a case of the mulligans here, on his way down to 4 right now. Not the start you're looking for, with a tap 8 berth on the line. Meanwhile, for Daryl Ayers, a win here certainly locks up that top 8, puts the 3rd copy of an Urza deck into our top 8.
Yep.
Craig and I are going to bring you the finals of SCG Knoxville. Can't wait to call that Urza Mirror. It's going to be a good time.
Oh, look at you, just putting it out there.
Calls them like I sees them, Craig.
I thought you were a big fan of the Bant Snowblade.
I am. But look, this is a historically great deck. And for things to break against a historically great deck, there needs to be some luck involved. I do think Bant Snowblade is solid. Urza is just on another level, though.
All right, I'm with you there.
Some of the turns we've seen out of this deck are so preposterous. Russell sculpting the perfect 4 cards here. Ready to go to war. Nothing feels better than when you're able to win on a mulligan to 4, Craig. So Daryl Ayers also going to be on the play this game. Gilded Goose, fine turn 1.
And one of the more painful aspects about mulliganing a ton against the Urza decks is that they don't kill you on turn 3 or 4.
Right, you're going to sit here and suffer for 10
And
turns.
it's like, man, if I had 7 cards, they can often just grind me out of the game. Now I only have 4 cards, and they're just going to grind me out of the game, and I got to just sit here and endure it the whole time.
Yeah, well, here is Cavern of Souls into Ether Vial, which, like, theoretically is a good card.
Yeah.
But the problem is it is a card, and when you're down to just 4, it's tough to lean on Ether Vial. Going to need some real help off the top of the deck.
Yeah, the Ether Vial is good because it makes these explosive draws where you start playing 2 creatures every turn, 2 creatures every turn,
right,
and cheating on mana. But when you only have 4 cards to work with and one of your resources is the Ether Vial, you run out of those cards to play 2 a turn real quick.
Correct, Craig. Going to need some real help from the mana base, obviously loaded with Horizon lands. If you can convert some of those into resources, maybe there's a chance, but a great start here from Daryl Ayers. Gilded Goose into Emery, into a stocked graveyard, into Engineered Explosives on 1.
Man.
5 permanents on the battlefield on turn 2.
And on the flip side, if Russell, in his mulligan, he gets to select the 4 cards he keeps, he says, I only want 1 land in this Ether Vial, so I have tons of threats. And then the opponent goes, all right, Engineer Explosives on 1. Now you can't even play the cards in your hand.
It's even worse than that, Craig. That's a recursive Engineered Explosives. That can come back as much as you want. And as you surmised, only 1 land for Russell Lee. Does not seem ideal. And Daryl going to go ahead and just blow up that Engineered Explosives now. You understand why. You can basically buy it back at will. Here's Ether Spellbomb rebought. Ayers makes a land drop and passes the turn.
Oh, yeah.
Russell.
Oh.
And Russell, thank you, Russell. Russell, you're a kind, loving person. I appreciate the somewhat preemptive scoop there.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have done 10 more turns of that, but the writing was on the wall entirely. Let's go to the sideboards instead. We're going to start over on Russell Lee's side. There you see 3 Dismember, 3 Mirren Crusader, 2 Knight of Autumn, 2 Deputy of Detention, 2 Phyrexian Revoker, an Auriok Champion, a Combo, Console of Allocation, and finally 1 Plague Engineer. Craig, what do you want to do if you're Russell Lee?
So we saw these Mirror Crusaders come in against the Bant Snowblade deck.
We did.
The ground game is very similar here So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see those come in this matchup as well.
Yeah, they're maybe better shutting down the black removal spell from Daryl Ayers as well.
Yeah, and they can't get turned into Elk. They can't be blocked by Elk. So in that way, they interact pretty positively against Oko. So I like those. And then it's a question of what Russell thinks is the next best card. So I don't know if he wants Deputy of Detention or if he wants Revoker. Probably 1 to 2 of a mix of those cards. It's funny because like Knight of Autumn is tempting because the opponent has so many artifacts.
Right.
But none of them are actually that important to blow up. You blow up an artifact, they potentially still have access to it out of the graveyard, or they have a redundant copy in their hand. It's not the same as playing against the equipment deck where you have to get the equipment off of the board.
Yeah, I think the 3 payoffs for this deck are Emery, Oko, Urza.
Yep.
Those are the cards you're concerned about, so I'm more inclined to take a card that answers those rather than Knight of Autumn.
So do you think the Dismembers come in then?
I mean, I look at these human setups, and there seems to be so many options on their side. I'm not sure exactly how they're tailoring their decks in post-board games. I guess I would lean towards the Dismembers, and then probably like Phyrexian Revoker is the one that has the next best coverage.
Okay.
Actually, it has the most coverage. I mean, it shuts off all 3 of those key cards I mentioned. Urza, to some extent, like you're still getting value out of Urza when it comes down, but I don't know. I think there's multiple ways you can approach this matchup, and it probably changes based on the play and draw quite significantly, I would guess.
Okay, I could see that, where you want to leave in a much more aggressive game plan when you're on the play.
Correct.
And potentially have more Dismembers in your deck when you're on the draw.
That seems correct to me. Meanwhile, over on Daryl Ayers' side, we were looking at 4 Mystical Dispute, 3 Ashiok Dreamrender, 2 Future Sight, 2 Fatal Push, 2 Maelstrom Pulse, 1 Unmoored Ego, and a Ceremonious Rejection. We're just looking at the removal spells here, Craig.
Yeah, I really like 2 Fatal Push. They're the most efficient thing you can be doing because against the humans deck, the most important thing is just not to fall behind in those early to mid-game turns. So Fatal Push is great. And Maelstrom Pulse, a lot of appeal there because with the Phantasmal Image, they end up with a board with a lot of the same copies of cards on the board.
It looks like our players are ready to start. Ether Vial on turn 1 for Russell Lee. Both players keeping 7 here. That Cavern of Souls, of course, naming humans. Seems like a better start for Russell Lee. What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, I'm much more optimistic this game.
Meanwhile, Daryl just going to do typical Urza stuff, put some artifacts onto the battlefield. Turn back to Russell now. Cavern of Souls puts out second Ether Vial.
Oh, man.
Passes the turn.
This makes me so nervous.
To Daryl.
You miss a land drop, you play a second Ether Vial, you're just asking for it.
Oh, boy. Here's the Engineered Explosive Sweat. Oh, no.
Oh, man.
Oh, no. Tap, Mox Opal.
Oh, a bit of a reprieve in that the Mystic Sanctuary came into play tapped.
Right. All right, so you get it. Oh, no, another 1 drop. All right, I hope we're doing something about this Engineered Explosives. That's the only way this goes well. A lot of options. Can be Phyrexian Revoker. Can be hard artifact removal. Looks like it's going to be Knight of Autumn.
Okay.
Now, that was the option we were lower on. It makes us look like fools. Pretty big get there.
I mean, this was the perfect situation for it, right?
Yep. Oh, this game was over.
I did think it was a little unusual that Daryl deployed a second spell bomb onto the board where he definitely wants to blow up his engineered explosives on 1.
Right. Or maybe assuming just get the cash in before it goes. Would require another land drop, but... All right, we got a game now. Russell thinking about what he wants to do with these Ether Vials. Looks like he's ready to turn 1 on. Meddling Mage coming down. What's the name going to be? This is a big call for Russell Lee.
I mean, to me, it's 2 of the big payoff cards.
He named Engineered Explosives, Craig.
I'm a little surprised by that, just because these decks generally don't play 4 copies of explosives. So for the opponent to have more is kind of doubtful.
Well, there's always the Emery rebuys, right? But you could have named Emery itself if that was your concern.
You could have named Emery. I also think that if Daryl has a land and an Urza, it's a big problem for you here.
Yeah.
If he just goes, Oko, it's a problem for you here. So
here's why I think you can discount that, because he played Tap Mystic Sanctuary. So we'd have to draw the land to do either of those things, I would think.
No, he has the Mox Opal in play.
Yeah, but to get to Urza,
to get to Urza, he needed a land and Urza.
Not for Oko, though.
Oko's there.
Yep. Here comes Mantis Rider.
I always like Mantis Rider. The one thing I'm looking for out of the Humans deck, basically every single turn, is for some aggression, for them to be pressuring the opponent's board, the opponent's life total, and Mantis Rider is always the best card for getting that done.
Okay. Looks like Daryl has a little cleanup here. Fatal Push at the ready. That's going to clean up that Meddling Mage, freeing up Emery to do its thing on the next turn. Could have used an Ether Spellbomb to bounce Meddling Mage as well. But this way retains a little bit of value, able to draw a card with those Spellbombs if he so chooses. Well, Russell Lee with a Dismember of his own, able to answer that Emery.
And this has been some fun back and forth where most of this game has been about that engineered explosives.
Yeah. Daryl having to think.
Yeah, he's wondering if he wants to save his Emery here with a spell bomb.
Interesting call. Ultimately decides not to. And Russell has yet another play here. Yeah, Thalia.
That's great.
That's a big play. Okay, things looking strong for Russell Lee. What kind of answers can Daryl put together? Pays 1 mana for a bauble. Boy, that card's a lot worse when it costs 1 mana.
It's so much worse when it costs 1. And this is the game where you really get to see the Humans deck humming, right? He's got a lot of different threats on the board. He's disrupted the opponent in a couple different ways. Killed a creature, Meddling Mage, make you pay more mana.
Has cheated on mana very significantly with both those Ether Vials.
Yeah, so
uses mana base to draw a bunch of cards. This is textbook Humans right here.
You're saying that Russell Lee's a big cheater is what I heard.
That is not at all what I said, correct? He is a very, very battle-tested Humans player.
And this is just miserable if you're on Ayers' side, where you're using your Spellbomb to bounce a 3-drop when the opponent has an untapped vial with 3 counters on it.
Right. Not optimal. Yeah, Daryl's just struggling to stay afloat right now, trying to find some way back into this game. We've seen Urza players come back from worse, certainly.
Well, I still think land Urza here.
Here's a land.
Goes a long way. It'll stabilize the ground, and Urza will open up, Ayers' mana base, where all of his artifacts are now the Mox Sapphires, and he'll be able to play spells through the Thalia on the other side of the board.
Here's 4 mana. Here's Urza. A medium swole Matthias Hunt joining Urza. Russell going to go ahead and redeploy that Mantis Rider.
And did Ayers search and shock there?
I believe so.
I'm a little surprised just because this Mantis Rider attacking for 4 points in the air makes it a 2-turn clock. Obviously, there's still the spell bomb, but
you got to assume he's got a use for that black mana sometime soon. no Astrolabe online yet if he wants to cast black spells.
Well, I would think it's got to be a black-green spell, right?
Right, because you need to use your Opal and then the black spell.
Yeah.
So Maelstrom Pulse in hand makes a lot of sense.
Maelstrom Pulse or an Abrupt Decay or one of these cards.
Yep. I agree. Little bauble trigger, picks up a couple cards here. Opal not live right now. Does have access to blue mana. Second Urza. Okay. How about another construct? That'll turn that Mox Opal on fully. And now green-black is in fact unlocked. Here's a Mantis Rider. Ayers kind of doing it here.
Yeah, and I'm sure Russell Lee knows what's up.
There's Abrupt Decay.
On Ayers' turn, he used the big construct in order to cast the second Urza instead of tapping the Mox Opal for mana, which means he's got to be using the Mox Opal for some colored mana.
Oh, absolutely. Ayers draws Gilded Goose. Okay, we got the life gain going now, potentially. Time for a little spin. Here we go. Going to show Polluted Delta off the top.
That's actually a really good one. It can fetch up a second Mystic Sanctuary.
Yeah. Noble Hierarch for Russell Lee. Is able to get an attack with Thalia. Ayers going to have to do a little chump in here.
Probably. He could take it if he wanted to.
He's going to throw the Gilded Goose in front. He knows he's close. And is going to go ahead and crack that Polluted Delta. We assume Mystic Sanctuary probably coming onto the battlefield. Boy, is this a silly Magic card.
It is. It's an island, of course. Why wouldn't it be an island?
Has to be an
island.
island.
That makes sense.
Ayers going to get Cryptic Command. So many game plans available to this Urza deck. Really can do it all, and it looks like Daryl Ayers has stabilized against Russell Lee. Now, let's not discount the possibility of Kessig Malcontents. Note that there's Ether Vial sitting on 3 and 2, so explosive damage can come from nowhere. Russell Lee needs to draw some cards to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by the Cryptic Command, but if you get it, I do like this line where you say, all right, I have to set it up to kill you next turn.
Yep. Yeah, Daryl wants the game to end. I get it. I would anticipate these two cards in Russell's hand to be live for the most part. I'm not going to try and speculate on what they are, but if I was Daryl, I'm not counting on them being lands, I'll tell you that much. So the turn has passed back to Russell. Knows that Ayers has that Cryptic Command. Of course, there are Ether Vials. That helps blunt the impact of tapping your team, assuming you have creatures in hand. Russell's going to play another land.
See,
Engineered Explosives. On 1. Okay. Seems good.
yes, that was a great draw step. So the line that Daryl took, getting the Cryptic Command, but then he doesn't use the Cryptic Command, was a little awkward to me. The constructs still aren't big enough to win the game this turn.
Right. I'm just going to get in there. Constructs and Urza.
Yeah, I feel like the engineered explosives really bailed him out there.
Maybe.
That was a huge draw step.
Maybe it did. These constructs were a little too teeny to get the job done. A lot of the tricksiness of Russell's deck now sapped away. And that is, in fact, going to get the handshake. And that means Daryl Ayers takes down Russell Lee 2-0. Locks up top 8. Does Daryl Ayers.
Yeah.
Huge start to the season.
Again, the Urza deck squeezed a little bit on mana for a couple of turns there, but once Urza comes down,